It's all based around authenticity and extreme candor. Those are the things that I take with me to every role. And I think the people that have worked with me over the years would say he was fair. He listened. He made good decisions. We worked as a team. He didn't just talk about collaboration, he modeled it.
What does it really take to turn around a business? And how do you get an entire team rowing in the same direction? Today, you'll hear how one leader, Brian Bark, drives engagement, builds trust, and helps some of the world's biggest companies achieve big dreams together. Welcome to Dream Big with Big Dreamers, conversations for career growth, inspiration, and insight. It's time to dream big. Today's guest is Brian Bark, a results-driven executive with over 20 years leading some of the world's largest organizations through real transformation. As Aon's Florida market leader and executive vice president, Brian brings a unique perspective on the power of people, engagement, and building exceptional teams. Throughout his career, he's led major turnarounds, championed innovation, and delivered tangible results across industries. But at the heart of it all, Brian is a leader who believes that we are the masters of our own destiny and that people, not just plans, are the true drivers of success. Brian, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Brian, this is a question I ask all of my guests. When was the first time you remember dreaming big, and how did that shape who you are today?
That's a great question. Actually, I'll go all the way back to my childhood. I distinctly remember a picture of me boarding an airplane with my family, and I was carrying a toy airplane in my hand, and I wanted to be a pilot. And that was my first big dream in life, to become a pilot. That was my lifelong ambition. And so that was probably the first big dream I had.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Now, your journey has spanned everything from leading major turnarounds and building high performing teams to advising Fortune 500 companies across industries like finance, healthcare, and technology. Could you share a bit about how your career has evolved and what some of those key experiences have taught you about leading people and organizations through big changes?
I'd start by telling you, if I spoke to a group of MBA students at my old school, Case Western, a number of years ago, and I said, if I told you that ending up in professional services was my plan, that would be a lie. It was not my plan. It was to be a pilot, as I mentioned, but I lucked into consulting. And at the time, I started with a very small boutique firm that worked with really large organizations. And I would really credit that place with so much of my early career development. Because in a small company, you don't have a department of this or a department of that. You have to do it all. And I was fortunate to have a couple of great mentors there that took me under their wing. And at a very young age, I found myself in the boardrooms of major corporations, learning things, listening, observing, getting to play a role in things. And that was just so impactful for me in terms of getting me interested in consulting, learning how to be a good, authentic consultant, and frankly, learning people leadership. By the time I left that firm, I was running the East Coast for them, which was just a number of small offices, but it was my first foray into real professional services leadership. And from then I had a passion for that and clients. And those two things together, I think in our business, you're always a player coach. And I never want to lose that client contact and that piece of it. And the leadership piece, I think, is also very special. There's not many places you get to work with so many smart, motivated, innovative people. It's just a really special segment to work in. And so I think I've learned a lot. I really appreciated it. And frankly, I value every day that I get to spend in this industry.
Now, you've been involved in some real turnaround situations, and I imagine each one is unique, but are there any common threads in how you approach these challenges, especially when you need to get people aligned and moving forward?
If I look back at the things I've done over the past 20 years, I'd say there is a real theme around diagnosing, fixing, repairing, and growing operations. That's really what I've done. Because I've done it in multiple organizations and I've done it with a high degree of success. So I would call it a track record. And I think one of the advantages you have when you come into a situation like that as an outsider is that people will be very candid with you about what hasn't worked, what might work, what they think will work. That was someone that's been a part of the organization, maybe even in that very organization, who steps into a role like that. People are not always as candid, right? You might be vested in some of the things that happened in the past or historically. And so they're a little less forthcoming. They're a little more guarded. When you walk in fresh with an open mind and you just start asking questions and you get really good feedback about what's most broken. And I think then the next thing is trying to figure out, I'm a big fan of keeping it simple. And
Yeah.
so I do not ever want to boil the ocean. I'm looking for one or two or three things that I can focus on, get others to focus on, and see progress on that we can actually measure, right? I think if you pick a few things like that, get people oriented about it. I'll just give you one example. I walked into a very well established professional services environment that had been hugely successful, had some of the best talent in the business. And it was almost like an attitude of, there's nothing left to do here. We really have this covered. We're doing well. And so I started coming up with a simple theme. I started saying to them, I can see a few major corporations right out of these windows, and we don't do business with any of them. And I'm a little curious about why that is. Why? And I just started asking why. At first, you get excuses. They don't like us. We used to do business. Someone there hates us, whatever. There were all these excuses. And I just kept talking about it. And then I put together a list and said, hey, these are 5 companies that are right here within walking distance of our office. We don't have any relationship with them. Can we fix that? Can we fix that? And I started getting people to think about it. And within a year, we had billable relationships with 3 of those that were going very well. So it took focus, it took keeping it simple, and it eventually took convincing people that, yeah, there was some more things to do.
You've said the key is driving engagement and sporting a common goal. What are some practical ways that you get that buy in from your teams, especially when it's during times of uncertainty or change?
Yeah, so I think anybody who knows me, I made a little speech when I joined Aon and took this role on, and I said, "You're welcome to read my LinkedIn profile and look at my career history and all that stuff." But the real story is, I only have one speed, and it's candid. And if you want to know my agenda, or you want to know what I'm thinking, or you want to know anything at all, and I'm not going to guarantee you like the answer, but you're going to get the honest answer. And so I always just have been super transparent about everything to the highest degree possible in that moment. Things you can't always be completely transparent about, but as transparent as possible. And I think people recognize a level of authenticity. They can tell if you genuinely care about them and you generally care about what you're doing. And if you believe what it is you're saying, you're not just a mouthpiece for corporate, you're really telling them the truth about things. I think that goes such a long way towards inspiring people. And I'm going to make one little plug here. And we actually just won Market of the Year this past year in North America. It was one of 3 awards for Market of the Year. Super proud of that. It's based largely on business results. But what I'm most proud of is something that is not a part of that reward, and that's our engagement scores. Over the last 3 years, they have steadily climbed. We have the highest engagement scores in the company, 97% engagement. I don't think you get that.
Huh.
People believe that you are in it with them, you care about them, and you're giving it to them straight, and you're going to look out for them.
I think being a straight shooter, they see that, they recognize it. And that's what we all want is someone to be direct and to be honest.
It can be an acquired taste for some. Others would say it could be career limiting at times, but at this point in my life, I know who I am.
How do you help your teams and yourself keep dreaming big, even after hitting tough roadblocks?
There's a certain element of perseverance and grit that really has to be a part of your DNA sometimes, particularly, look, in professional services, any business, you're always developing relationships and developing business. You have to grow the business, right? And it doesn't always come naturally to some people, but that's one of those things that, again, authenticity, putting the client's needs ahead of your own, really just rolling up your sleeves and trying to figure out how to make them successful. Clients are savvy. They're smart. They know when you have their best interests at heart. And I think as long as you can keep yourself oriented in that way of thinking, the rest almost takes care of itself. And you just have to keep after it, be patient. Some relationships you can get into pretty quickly. The timing's good, things work. Others, I have a couple examples right in my old stomping ground of Philly where we had to hang around for a couple of years before we got a break, but we did. And we did get a break. And so it just depends, but you have to be authentic, honest, actually care about their agenda and persevere. So
So, with all your experience, what's one lesson about leadership or people that you wish more professionals understood earlier in their careers?
there's a couple of good ones, and I've really benefited from some great training throughout my career. One of the benefits of being in professional services, we have a lot of experts in a lot of things. And I'd say that there's one thing that I always try to be mindful of. everyone moves at a different pace, and you have to make sure you people behind. I personally move pretty quickly. I have a bias to action, pretty much know directionally. I want to get a sanity check on some things. I want to get a little consensus, but then I want to go. And sometimes you have to recognize not everyone in the room is there. And you have to, when you're an action oriented person, you have a bias to go. You have to rein yourself in at times and let people catch up and help them catch up. And so that's one big thing I would say is understanding where everyone in the room and on the team is and making sure we all get to the same place, even if it's at a different time.
Yeah.
And then we can move, right?
Oh, I love that. And everyone's different. That's the one thing. You can't judge everyone based upon your own values and your own beliefs.
Yeah.
Everyone is different, whether it's their pace or how well they do a job or all of that. It's
Right.
something that you always have to think about.
It's true. No, yeah, it absolutely is true. And it's impactful when you actually take the time to do it correctly. Because if you do, you minimize a lot of that passive aggressive resistance and some of the other behaviors you get that are maybe non ideal towards getting everyone going in the same direction at the same pace.
You've made some big changes in your career. How has your personal brand helped you along the way?
I've been with a few professional services firms over the course of my career, as well as doing some other things earlier in my life. I think as much as the firms might change, I try to stay consistent. So I think I'm the same guy that's worked at all those firms. I think I've learned something at each and every one of those. I think I've evolved and I work hard every day to get better and learn and listen. And I'm never going to be someone that thinks they're done listening.
Yeah.
And I think my brand is probably a theme that's come through in this interview today. It's all based around authenticity and extreme candor. Those are the things that I take with me to every role. And I think the people that have worked with me over the years would say he was fair. He listened. He made good decisions. We worked as a team. He didn't just talk about collaboration. He modeled it. Put us
Yeah.
how. Those are the things that I think have been really important personally in terms of my own brand.
Yeah. I love the showing, not just telling piece of it. I think that's important.
Yeah.
But we also look at your LinkedIn profile. We look at your career branding.
Right.
You've never been shy to really put that stake in the ground and say, this is who I am, and I'm proud of it. And I want to teach and inspire and motivate and help people. And I think because you've been so vulnerable and open about who you are and what you do, I think people see it, they recognize it, and they want you to work with them.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, with all of that said, such great nuggets. What's one big dream that you're chasing next, either professionally or personally?
Yeah, so I'll give you one of each. So let's do the professional one. That's easy. Still some more work to do with our greater Florida operation. And so I really want to get that fully optimized in a way that I can look at it and say, yes. And then turn it over to someone else and let them run it. And I'll find the next challenge and the next thing to fix. Right. So
Mhm.
that's kind of where I am professionally. Personally, my dream to be a pilot, I did realize that dream. I flew for a
Oh,
corporation for 5 years. And I think next on my list is I want to learn to fly helicopters just for fun. So
why not?
why not?
What do you think that little boy who was grasping that airplane, what do you think he would think now
Uh,
looking at you today?
I guess he'd probably say, why didn't you stay with aviation? And I would say, I'm doing a lot better in consulting. I hope he's proud of me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
No, thanks for having me. It's been great.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing your journey and reminding us that big dreams don't just belong to CEOs or Fortune 500 companies. They belong to anyone willing to take ownership, build trust, engage the people around them. And if you're listening, remember, you're more in charge of your destiny than you think. Start with your people, start today, and keep dreaming big.